This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, now it's good.
Yes, you can able to see my screen.
Yes,
And
yes.
you see, what I've done here is nothing more. I have created an employee object, and for that employee object, I have given an ID as one, and I have given my company ID as 123, which is constant for both the employees. So I'm assuming that I'm having two employees. So for that second employee, I'm giving the ID as two, right? And both the times I'm calling my display method. And can you tell me what is the output, Mike?
Yeah.
In the display method, I'm printing one and 1 2 3.
Yeah, just yeah, please give me 1 second. Let me sync it. Okay, so so you first call employee 1 and 1 2 3. System output employee ID and the company ID. Can you go down, please? Go up, please. Then I can see the display, the output part. Okay, so yeah, so first one, yeah, in employee ID, first one employee ID should be employee ID should be 2, I think.
You see, so what is I'm doing here? Here, first I'm creating an employee object. So this is my employee object.
Yeah.
This is my EMP1, right? It will have some address. So assume that 10 some 2 address is there. So whenever you create an employee object, what it will have, it will all have its non-static members. So once I create an object, so as I tell you, object means it belongs to a non-static. So what are the non-static members I have here? Only EMP ID. So company ID is a static one, and I have a display method. Now what happens? Your employee ID will be created, and what is the value of that ID? 0, because we didn't give anything, right? And at the time of creating, and what is your display? You will have a display also. This is also a non-static member you have, right? And what you are doing next after creating an object? What you are doing next? You are trying to, this is nothing but your EMP1 dot EMP ID. It means I'm changing my employee ID to 1. So at the time of creating, it got created with 0. Now what I'm doing, I am changing it to the 1. Colors. Okay. It's not taking white. Everything became. Some hanging here. It I'm selecting white. It is not taking. Okay. Here I create an employee ID. So employee object. So initially it has been created with 0. So my EMP ID will be 0 and I have a display also. Right. So this is your EMP1. Right. And what you are trying to do in the next line, you are trying to change that employee ID to
one.
1. So now what happens? Your employee ID becomes 1. And next step, what you are trying to do, you are changing your company ID to 123. So what I said, your company ID is something which is common to all the objects. So you have your CMP ID. So what is the CMP ID I'm giving? This is a class level and I'm giving it as 123.
123, yeah.
You are calling which method? You are calling a display method. So which display method you are calling? You are calling the display method which is present in your EMP1. Right? So it will call your display method. So in this display method, what you are printing? Employee ID. So this display method belongs to which one now? It belongs to your first object. So what is the employee ID that is present in this object?
1.
So it will print 1. So what is the company ID that is present here? 123.
123.
It will print that, right? So next, what you are trying to do? You are trying to create a one more object. Now, in next step, there is one more object will be created, right? In this object, what is the initial employee ID will be in this also 0. My initially the employee ID for this also 0. But after what you are doing, you are trying to change that to 2, right? Now it will have the 2 value and you will have a display also. So here what display you are calling? emp2.display. So display method which is present in your second object. So this what it will print? It will print 2 and what is your company ID? CMP 123. So what I said, this company ID CMP2 CMP ID will be shared commonly between both the objects. This company ID is same for this object as well as this object. Your company ID will not be different for 2 employees, right?
Yeah.
2. This is my EMP2. This is my EMP1. So for this both the objects, my company ID is same. But what is different? Your employee ID is different. So if I'm trying to run this, it will print 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. I can able to run this.
Oh yes. Twice. So basically, it will be twice. Okay. I thought only once. That's why.
I'm calling display method to, 2 times, right? You are not overriding that. You are calling the display method twice. So
twice.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Because there are two methods. That's why. Oh, call. Yes, that's true. Calling twice. Yes. Should it be 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3?
So it means you understood your company ID is common between all the objects. Assume that I'm trying to change my company ID with EMP1 also. So if I'm trying to change with the EMP1, so it is not suggested one. So if I'm trying to change this with EMP1, right? So if I print what is output? Same. That is
same. Yes.
Company EMP1, 1, 2, 3, and 2, 1. For example, here
2, 1, 2, 3.
I'm changing EMP2 dot CMP ID. Okay. First we'll run this.
So it's the same result.
Same result. So it's like your company ID is shared commonly between both the objects. you got that mic. So here company ID here, if you see, this is common. The company ID, if I change this company ID, this is common to both objects, but your EMP ID 1 and EMP ID 2 are different because your employee ID will be different. But that it means here, but your company ID is same. So it means your static member will be common between all the objects, but your non-static member will be sorry, your non-static member will be different, and your static member will be common between all the objects. For example, if I create one more object also, that company ID 123 will be saved for that object also, and I can able to debug and show. So here, whenever I put a breakpoint, my compiler, so here the compiler comes to this place. So if I'm saying I can able to run. So as you say, first it will come to which one? It will come to your uh, main method, whatever the method that you run. I'm putting my debuggers in main method, and here if I say debug as Java application, so your compiler first comes to your main method. And if you see here, and it came with 0 arguments. So if you see that arguments that I passed, empty arguments, right? For an array, there is an empty arguments. And what you're trying to create an object. So if I press F6, the object gets created. So what is an object? Your EMP1 object got created. You can see what that object is having. It is having only the EMP ID. So if you see that what your EMP1 is having, EMP1 is an object which is having only the EMP ID. Why it is not having company ID? But that because that company ID is a static one that not belongs to an object. It belongs to the class, right? So that is the reason you cannot see that company ID over here. And if you see, this is nothing but the hash code of an object. It means one object has been created. Hash code is nothing but an object reference address. If you see, this is my hash code. I'm just copying it to tell you that there are two objects have been created. So this is my, sorry, I have not copied it totally. You see it is there in this package, and this is my output. And if I press F6, what happens? The compiler will go to the next step. In the next step, and your company ID, your EMP ID will here, which is there in this employee one object, will change.
Become.
So it has been changed to 1, right? And now your company ID, for the company ID, you are giving it as 1, 2, 3. Right? You have given company ID 1, 2, 3. That is not a object level. It is not there. That's the reason you cannot see. But it's a class level. It assigned 1, 2, 3. So now what you are calling a display method. So when you call, your compiler goes to the display method and it will print your company ID, sorry, EMP ID and a company first. Will print F6, your 1, 2, 3 will print. So from where it called from main. Again it will go to main. So after executing this line, your second object EMP2 will be created. And what this EMP2 will contain? EMP ID. And what is the initial value? 0, because I am not given. So now what I am changing? EMP ID. So again it will change to 2. Now you are calling again display method. Where it will go? Again it will go to the display. Here what you are printing? Okay, I forgot to take that object reference. So it means your object will have different value. Now it is printing your company. So after it comes here, and if you see, there are two objects. So this object will have different hash code, and your previous object will have a different hash code. So it means the two objects got created. You can see both are different. So it will be something like this and it will be. So you see the hash code is different for both this. So this both exist in same package, and this is nothing but your hash code which is different for the both objects. There are two objects for being created, EMP1 and EMP2. It has EMP ID, it has its own EMP ID. So there are two EMP IDs because two objects. But for these two objects which is common, 1, 2, 3, that is your company ID is a common for these two objects, which is a unique one. And there is no expression, it will come out of that. Are you clear, Mike?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, Suya, can you, before we wrap up today, can you please send me the note and also this code? I will practice at my side, like
Okay.
before. Yeah.
You try to do some changes to this.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
do the practice actually.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. Even you can, but I think you understood this concept, right?
Yes. I understood the concept. Yes. Yes. Just I will create a file at my side. Java.
So take your own names. It is not required to be like the same, right?
Yeah. Sure. I got. Where is here? Okay.
Have you taken Mike?
Just please give me one moment. Okay.
No.
Yeah, I saved. Yeah, I saved. It's done.
Okay. Have you saved the both?
Yes.
I change my So if you do with this EMP1 or EMP2, it will be 1 to 3 only because EMP2 I have not created here. Dot CMP equals to 1 to 3. So if I do with the EMP1 or EMP2, it will be, the result will be the same. Right? 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. Before we done with the EMP1. Or if I do with the object also. What is the best practice of doing that? It should not be with the or. So you can see that it is common. Are you clear, Mike?
Yes, yes.
Okay, please practice this. Can we wind up the session now, or
Yeah,
can
sure,
we continue?
sure. No, yeah, we will. Yeah, we will wrap up now, and we will continue tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay, Mike, just go through this. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Yeah, yeah. I will go through this. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for today. So yeah. So have a good night. We'll connect tomorrow.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Same to you.